Evening, everybody, those online and those here in the building. We have new carpet in the building, so we're getting used to new acoustics by the sounds of it. So, um, nevertheless, onwards we march. The Irish poet W.B. Yeats, he wrote in the 1920s a poem that's become quite well known and oft-studied, and the first sentence of it reads, "Turning and turning in the widening gyre, the falcon cannot hear the falconer. Things fall apart, the centre cannot hold. Mere anarchy is loosed upon the world. The blood-dim tide is loosed, and everywhere the ceremony of innocence is drowned. The best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity." He goes on and things don't get any brighter or lighter than that. It's quite an ominous poem in many ways, and we could spend all night and then some probably discussing that, but that's not our purpose here. I just wanted to draw our attention to that line there, the blood-dim tide is loosed. And in many ways that invoking of not just a red tide, but a blood-dimmed tide, encapsulates the way in which blood is often invoked. Blood is an organic substance, and we'll get into some of the questions a little bit, but it occupies almost a singular place, I think, in literature as a metaphor, as an idea very frequently of heavy things, of life and death. We're familiar with blood being used in very well-known proverbs, things like, trying to get blood out of a stone. We use the phrase, blood is thicker than water, the very definition of a metaphor. Blood literally is thicker than water, but clearly is used to represent the ties of family and the ways in which it's very difficult to overcome or sidestep those, even at great cost to an individual, to morality, these type of things. Blood, again, pardon the pun, the analogy, blood runs right through the Bible, doesn't it? When I was preparing this lesson, Larissa said, did you want me to help read some of the verses, or, you look them up and I can read them out? There's quite a lot to go through. And then she sort of thought again and said, blood kind of dominates the Bible, and it does. I have a study aid. You may have something similar or come across it, and it's called the Scarlet Thread of Redemption, and it looks at the way in which blood and the idea of blood and what it represents wends its way through the Bible, and that very first taking of the animal to create the skins to cover Adam and Eve's nakedness, all the way through the scarlet thread that Rahab uses to provide rescue, obviously to Jesus Christ as well. Animal sacrifices, again, we'll spend the rest of the evening picking apart some of these things and looking at them in great depth. But the last couple of weeks we've looked at light, and again how that seems to encapsulate a sense of holiness, of illumination, but understanding, direction, water, even though at times associated with death, but death in the purpose of cleansing, death in the purpose of making things pure and holy and right, and then also water as the living waters, the growth, the source of new growth, of life. I think blood is an altogether more complicated perhaps, and certainly heavier topic at times. And so light and water and blood are all interlinked also, and all kind of coming at these same concepts but from different angles. So as with the last 2 weeks, we'll look at pretty much the same questions amongst this whole range of verses. And again, I think what we'll find for those online that will leave us shortly, and those here in person is that just with light and with water, that blood isn't used just for one thing, but there are many different senses that it's given, many different ways in which it serves as a to transfer its meaning as a substitute onto uh, concepts that ultimately God is trying to convey, really fundamental things, elemental to our life, but also elemental to our understanding of our spiritual lives. So we'll leave that slide up, and we'll go offline for the rest of the discussion. Again, if there are any questions or if people had follow-up for those online, please feel free to get in touch with the congregation here, and we're happy to follow up with any questions that people might have. So thank you.